Hey, you want to be an inspector? Come work for me. I need inspectors. Isn't that the way we all think about it when we first start thinking about hiring inspectors? I know at first I was the only inspector, and that was 20 years I was the only inspector. Well, that's not entirely true. I had other inspectors here and there, but mostly it was just me. My name is Rob Hopkin. I'm with IEB, and I'm here to talk to you about how to hire your first inspector. As I said, I was the only inspector for the better part of 20 years, and I was perfectly happy with that. I loved being an inspector. It was fun going out, climbing on roofs and talking to people about their house, and it was an upbeat thing. Everybody was excited they were buying a house, and I had all the answers for them, and mostly it was a really happy thing, and I would get a check at the end of the day, and I would go home, and it was pretty good money. We were doing quite well, and every year we did more inspections than the year before, and it was all good. And then I started thinking, I had about 7 kids living at home at this point, and I started thinking, what happens if I fall off a roof one day? Or if I have a heart attack in an attic? What's going to happen to my family? How are we going to survive? And the answers that I had didn't look pretty. So at that point I knew we had to grow our business a little bit. I had to have other inspectors in case something happened to me, because, you know, it's inevitable. At some point, we're not going to be able to inspect ourselves. So that may be you. You may be having those same thoughts. And if you haven't had those thoughts yet, you're going to have those thoughts someday. So keep that in mind when you're looking at this video. I'm talking to you, whether you know it now or not. So how do you hire your first inspector? Well, at first, we would hire any warm body that walked in the door. If you had any kind of construction experience, we were interested. If you could communicate, we were interested. If you had a heartbeat, we were interested. It was hard to find inspectors. We put ads out in Indeed, we asked people, we talked to contractors everywhere. It was hard to get guys on board, and you had to be licensed. In my state, it's a licensed state, so one has some hurdles to jump through before they can be an inspector. I'm jealous of the folks that live in non-licensed states. But at any rate, it's difficult to get that first inspector, especially because you don't know what to do. You don't know how to hire, you don't know who to hire, you don't know how to train those people, you don't know if their qualifications are going to transfer to what you need them out of them. And so we hired our first inspector, and I have to say we weren't very good at this. We hired our first inspector 19 times. Yeah, that's right. I'm not kidding. 19 times we hired our first inspector. So you might say we're really good at this. We've done it a lot. Or you might say we sucked at it. But today we have over 20 inspectors, and we're really good at it. But back in those days, we weren't so good at it. And we learned by trial and error mostly, and mostly error. So what were we doing wrong at first? Well, I told you before, we were just trying to hire anyone that walked in the door, and that was mistake number 1. We weren't real specific about what it was that we were looking for. You have to get real clear on what is it exactly that you're looking for. What qualifications are you looking for? And the qualifications that we initially thought were most important turned out to not be as important. And that qualification that we felt was the most important was some sort